This is the Specialized S-Works Aethos, a brand new super lightweight bike. And before I tell you anything else about it, here's a number for you. 585 grams claimed frame weight for a size 56. 585 grams. This is a bike with disc brakes and it weighs nothing. It's ridiculous. We're going to get into all the geeky details about what makes this bike truly special, but first of all, big shout out to our kit sponsor Freewheel. Check the link in the description. Back to the bike, here's another number for you, £13,000. Now this is the regular S-Works bike that we've got here, but the Founders Edition, which is the top spec true Halo model, costs £13,000, a truly impressive amount of money. Earlier this year, Specialized launched its brand new Tarmac SL7, saying that they'd married super lightweight with aerodynamics, and in doing so they killed off the Venge because they said there was no need for separate platforms. Given all of that, it might come as a little bit of a surprise that the brand has gone and launched a bike that is purely focused on weight, because that is what the Aethos is. The Halo Founders Edition is claimed to weigh just 5.9 kilograms for a 56 centimetre bike. This regular S-Works model with Durace in a size 54 weighs 6.1 kilograms on our scales. Either way, that's astonishingly light, and it's also underneath the UCI weight limit. The point of the Aethos, however, is explicitly not to be a race bike. Specialized says it made this bike for the love of riding, and as a result, it doesn't matter if it's objectively the fastest bike, and Specialized says that the Tarmac is the fastest bike in every situation in the real world, and it's the bike that the pro teams are going to be racing, but it's about how the bike feels and rides and looks. The Aethos is a really classic looking frame. It doesn't have any of the aero tube shapes of modern race bikes. It doesn't have dropped seat stays. It's just a very simple, clean looking bike with really classic lines. While it's not built with racing in mind, you could of course race it. The frame is UCI approved and the geometry is exactly the same in fit terms as the Tarmac. This 54 centimetre bike has 544 millimetres of stack and 384 millimetres of reach. The team that designed this bike was led by a guy called Peter Denk, whose name you might recognise if you're a fan of such classic machines as the original Scott Addict and the Cannondale Super 6 Evo, both super lightweight bikes that were very influential. Specialized says it used supercomputer simulations in optimising this frame. They were focusing on a combination of ride comfort, style, and of course aesthetics, because getting that classic look was a big part of this design. Nominally, the Aethos shares its carbon with the Tarmac SL7. It's made from FACT 12R, which is what Specialized is currently calling its top-end stuff. The way that carbon is used, however, is apparently quite different with the Aethos. Specialized engineers said they worked on reducing the number of stiffness layers to save weight using longer, unbroken pieces of carbon. Despite that, they haven't gone crazy thin with the wall thicknesses, and you can squeeze the frame tubes just like any other bike. It doesn't feel like it's incredibly fragile or anything. The result of all this work is that insanely low claimed frame weight. 585 grams for a 56 centimetre makes this the lightest disc bike on the market by quite a significant margin as far as I'm aware. This wasn't purely a weight savings exercise though. The bike was still designed to be very stiff, and according to Specialized's own benchmarking, it wins on stiffness to weight against all the other key contenders. I am taking their word for that because I haven't done the testing myself. The bike also doesn't come with some crazy low rider weight limit. This is rated for a 125 kilogram rider. When Specialized first hinted at the idea of a so-called pure road bike, I did wonder what they meant by that. In fact, what they've done with the Aethos is poured all the modern elements into a very pared back design. This bike is disc brake only, and it's also only designed for electronic group sets. It doesn't have routing for mechanical cables. At the same time, like the Tarmac SL7 for instance, it's got clearance for 32mm tyres, although Specialized fits 26s as standard. Most of the pure race bikes coming onto the market now, including the Tarmac SL7, have gone for ever higher levels of integration with, as much as possible, everything hidden on the inside of the frame set. Interestingly, the Aethos doesn't do that. It's got its cables on show at the front. They're internal otherwise, but you can still see cables running from the bar to the frame, and that is presumably for reasons of weight savings. Another traditional element, and something that we're seeing on a lot more new bikes, is a return to a threaded bottom bracket, which will make you very happy if you work on your bike yourself. The Halo Founders Edition has the new super lightweight one-piece Alpinist cockpit, but this standard, if you want to use that word for a bike this special, S-Works model has a totally conventional separate bar and stem. Let's talk about the rest of this build. The wheels on this bike are the recently launched Roval Alpinist CLX. They're a super lightweight set of clinchers, but like the Rovals that are on the Tarmac SL7, they're not tubeless ready, which might seem a tiny bit surprising to some people thinking of investing in a bike this expensive. This bike is fitted with a full Shimano Dura-Ace Di2 group set, albeit with a specialised power meter rather than Shimano's own one. As you'd hope, it's got S-Works carbon bars, a nice S-Works stem, and the seat post is also from that Alpinist range. It's a super lightweight carbon one, while the saddle is an S-Works Roman with carbon rails. Specialized says that seat post weighs 136 grams, if you're interested. Now, you're probably wondering what it feels like to ride a bike this ridiculously light. I've not had much time with it, but our esteemed editor George Scott has put over 100 miles on the Aethos, so I'll be drawing on his riding impressions. According to George, it really is quite special. The Aethos is exceptionally light, and we know that while objectively weight doesn't necessarily matter in terms of overall speed that much, it really does affect how the bike feels. And as a result, the Aethos is a truly delightful bike on which to climb big hills. It truly shines on sustained climbs where you're putting almost all of your work into fighting gradients and weight. It's race sharp in its handling, and to use George's word, planted on descents. This is a really precise machine. At the same time, it's not uncomfortable. Now, obviously this is not a bike like the Specialized Roubaix with loads of squish built in, something where you might dabble off-road on gravel. But based on my initial impressions at least, it is more comfortable than the Tarmac SL7, which is a very focused race bike. The Tarmac is inevitably going to be the bike that most people compare the Aethos to. They're priced very similarly, they're from the same brand, and yet they have totally different thinking behind them. That distinction between what is objectively faster and what feels fast is really important. The Aethos is a bike that's going to feel sublime going up hills, but actually overall in the real world, the Tarmac is probably the faster bike, and that's why it's the race bike. Personally, I think how a bike makes you feel is really important. If you're not competing, that matters more to me than actual objective measures of speed. These are all quite early riding impressions, but do make sure you look out for the full review on BikeRadar.com. We'll drop a link in the description below. Let's talk about pricing for the Aethos. This model, the S-Works with Dura-Ace Di2, retails at £10,750 in the UK or $12,500 US. There's also a SRAM Red ETAP Axis model, which is priced the exact same. Then there's the Founders Edition, which is that amazing Halo bike, which is even lighter, which is £13,000 or $14,500 US. Finally, there is also a frame set option for those that prefer to build their own bikes. It's £4,000 in the UK or $5,200, and it comes in some amazing colour choices. I do really recommend taking a look at these. You may be wondering, is there an everyman Aethos? We are expecting there to be a cheaper model. Specialized does usually offer lower grade carbon versions of its bikes, but we're not allowed to tell you anything about one, so you'll just have to wait, I'm afraid. So the S-Works Aethos is a very expensive, very exclusive bike that probably a lot of us aren't going to be able to afford, and it would be easy to be dismissive of it for that reason. But I have to admit, I think it is absolutely magnificent. I don't race bikes, and I sometimes grow weary of the relentless race focus of new bike launches, because while it's important to go faster and it's interesting that a certain number of seconds are being shaved off using aerodynamic wizardry, it doesn't really make me feel anything. The Aethos, on the other hand, kind of ignores all of that stuff. It is purely focused on being a really amazing looking and riding bike, and I can only applaud Specialized for doing that. As I said, the Aethos shares DNA with bikes like the Scott Addict and the Cannondale Super 6 Evo, and in my heart of hearts, those are the ones that truly excite me. Aerodynamics matter so much if you are truly focused on going fast, but they have no particular impact on how you feel about a bike. The Aethos just ignores aerodynamics completely, and as a result, it just looks incredibly lovely. The Aethos has these lovely round tubes and very smooth lines that somehow manage to be quite classic and very modern at the same time. The Tarmac SL7 was pitched as the one bike to rule them all, uniting lightweight and aero, but in a parallel alternate reality where I have the kind of money for something like this, it's the Aethos that personally I'd be buying. It's just such a lovely, lovely thing, and if first impressions are anything to go by, it also rides tremendously well. There is still a little part of me that wishes Specialized had made a rim brake version of this bike for a truly, truly stripped back look. I mean, if they can make a disc bike this light, could they have gone even lighter with rim brakes? Who knows? For real world riding though, I can't think of a better combination of attributes. To have such low weight, really good braking, entirely conventional everyday components. This isn't some weight weenie special that gets wheeled out for a show and only hits a weight goal because it's wearing stupidly skinny tubular tyres. This is a practical, rideable, everyday road bike that just happens to be incredibly light. So, what do you think about the Specialized S-Works Aethos? Are you feeding your Tarmac SL7 into a wood chipper as we speak? Does this tick the boxes for you as a truly pure road bike, or do you think that ignoring aerodynamics in 2020 is an act of insanity? Let us know your thoughts about this bike in the comments, and please don't forget to like and subscribe, and most importantly, hit that little bell icon so that you get notified every time we publish a new video.